right, welcome back for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com where I talk about those books you can still probably find tucked away in those cheap boxes and those discount bins, whether you're shopping at flea markets, yard sales, your LCS, half price books, wherever you find your cheap comics. These are some things I think you can still find out there based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, things going on in the actual comic books, just to give you some kind of first appearances and fun little tie-ins. It's kind of a scavenger hunt kind of feel. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And I didn't think I was going to get to this today, but I did change around my work schedule. So I was working from home, so I was able to get this done for you today. So I figured I'd put it out there. So with that said, if you want to see this week's selection of books, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, so let's kick things off going right into the comics. So these are some new release comics that came out this week that I read through that kind of showed me a few things that kind of tie into some old books that you might be able to go and dig out of those discount boxes and those cheap boxes out there. Again, wherever you're finding your cheap stuff, keep an eye out for this stuff because it's kind of fun. Starting off with a book we reviewed on the Tack Show last night. We had Flops on. If you haven't checked that show out, make sure you go back and see our chat with Flops. He's a pretty cool dude and a great artist. And later on in the show, we got to our comic reviews and we talked about Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu #4, which isn't half bad. But there's a couple characters who, we can tie back into some old books. So as I was reading it, I saw that we had here Dr. Andrea Sturman. Andrea Sturman. Just chilling right there. She's been around quite a while. She was originally introduced way back in the 90s, kind of chasing down Nomad. So that's where we're going to find her first if you want to go and dig out your old Nomad books. Nomad issue 2. To be specific, her trying to hunt down Jack Monroe. This is right here. She's got a couple of pages, not a lot. It's not a big part of the story at this point, but this is her introduction. Again, she's trying to figure out this whole Nomad situation. Very cheap book. I mean, it's Nomad for God's sakes. I mean, copy sold for $1 or 99 cents, and there's copies listed for $2.50, $2.70 at my comic shop, $4.50. Not an expensive book at all, and nor am I saying that it should be. It's just kind of a fun book. It ties into some stuff that's going on in the comics today. So while you're out there digging, you go, you know what? What is this book? It's the first appearance of a character that just showed up this week. That's what that book is. Now, we additionally talked about a little bit more with the book, and then Marco even covered this book in his Under the Radar, but I figured, you know what? I can still cover it here, too, for those of you who didn't watch last night's show, and that is a villain that shows up later in the book. Well, maybe not so much the villain himself. I mean, he might be one of these nameless faces in the crowd, but a whole crap load of vermin show up at the second half of this book. So Moon Knight's down there in the sewers, and then he's in vermin's territory, and then all these rat guys go and attack him to the point where, he's buried, and then he fights his way out. Cool. I don't want to ruin the whole book for you, but I mean, that's part of it. But vermin, again, character that's been around for quite a while. I know a lot of you I think of him personally as part of that Kraven's Last Hunt, because I think he's got a cover or two in there on ASM, but he actually was first introduced back in Captain America, of all places. So Vermin goes back to Captain America 272 from May of 1982, where it's a pretty cool cover. You got Cap covered with all these rats, and it ties in pretty well with character of Vermin. I'm not a man. I am death. I am Vermin. Like a rat man. Cool. Still not that expensive of a book, but it can go for a few bucks if it's in really good condition. Some copies could sell as cheap as like $5-6, but then you might get copies that are, go up in the 15, even 20, even $30 kind of range, depending on how high the grade is. Might even find some graded copies out there. But most mid grades you can see out there on the market are about $7 to $10. Again, not an expensive first appearance, so something you could probably go and dig out if you go out there hunting. So, just kind of a fun one. With that, let's go over to Star Wars. We don't talk a lot of Star Wars because honestly, I've been kind of slow on reading my Star Wars books lately, but I did notice this guy right here on the front of Ewoks #4. I'm not reading Ewoks, but seeing the Gorax kind of I was like, oh yeah, I remember that thing. So seeing him right on the cover kind of drew my attention and drew my eye to it. So while Gorax is right there on the cover, he is inside the story as well. I mean, it looks a little bit different when the interior artist is doing them, but still, it's the Gorax. And Gorax goes back to, I believe, like that. Wasn't it special? Something like that. But in the comic form, he wasn't introduced, or it was not introduced until Dark Horse was doing those Star Wars Tales books. So back in February 2005, near the end of the run in Star Wars Tales number 22, there are two different covers on these books. I chose this one because it's the art one, and then they generally have like a photo cover too. But with that inside, I think it's the last story of this anthology book, because that's what Star Wars Tales was. It's like an anthology book with like 4 stories or so. And I believe it was the last entry in this book where we were introduced in comic form to the Gorax there on the Ewoks' homeworld of Endor, and yeah, kind of fighting there with the little ATST and whatnot. So cool. And this is not an expensive one. There are a couple Star Wars Tales that go for a bit of money. You got first. Like I'm drawing a blank on the on the Darths. I mean, you got some Revan ties. You got a couple of ones. You got even got the Han Solo bit. I think there's Indiana Jones kind of showed up in a lot of weird books. But point being, issue 22 is not that expensive and not highly sought after. Again, you can see copies selling for as cheap as like $4. A lot of like half a dozen issues sold for only $10. And then yeah, an issue one did sell for $13.50. That was in near mint plus condition. So a nice sharp copy could do well. They are like square bound because they're pretty thick. So keep that in mind too. And then on the other side of it, of what's available, you can see there's the photo cover, the B cover option for this book too. It's like $4 or $5. You can find copies out there. Maybe $6.60 at my comic shop. But either cover, like I said, I just picked the art one because I like that one best. Now, before we move on, I just want to remind you guys, anyone out there who hasn't tried Whatnot yet, now's your chance. Use my link in the description down below. Get yourselves a free $15 for signing up and giving the app a try. That's $15 for free just for signing up on the first thing you buy. You help out the channel. You get yourself something nice just to give it a try. You really got nothing to lose. So with that said, we're going to shift away from Marvel and away from Star Wars on over to the more independent themed books, but they still kind of tie in to the big companies, because here's how. Dynamite now currently has the license to do Silverhawks comics. So we just got a new Silverhawks comic this week with a buttload of covers. I mean, tons and tons of covers, man. It's going to be hard to figure out what covers which in the future. When you're digging in boxes, you're like, what book? Oh, it's still Silverhawks #1. Why are there 20 different covers? There's more than that, by the way. But with that said, inside the guts of this book, we do have, obviously, the Silverhawks. But I'm showing you this here because this is the original Silverhawks squad. Because the angle they're taking on this story is that this is 100 years into the future, and we're going to be getting a new Silverhawks team to kind of pick up the torch and move on, and these guys are going to be training them, the OGs. So here are the OGs. As you can see, them looking a bit old, and then we'll get introduced to the new crew as more issues come on, move along. Not to spoil things, but I think it'll be like a slow rollout as we go. Now, Silverhawks, classic 80s toy line, cartoon, comics, everything could be had back in the day. So we'll go back to the original comic run that actually came from Star Comics, an imprint of Marvel. And that's where you're going to get your first Silverhawks. So that OG squad is this crew right here. Now, this book had gotten hot at one point. This was like a $30 to $50 raw book at one time. Could be difficult to find in the cheap boxes, but they were out there. They'd find their way in there somehow. But by and large, the price has still come down from those highs I mentioned before. Copies have even sold around 13 to 15 bucks, so you can still get a decent return if you can find one for cheap. But you can find the occasional low-grade option listed for only 10 bucks these days, where there are still some copies out there searching for that 35 to kind of $40, $50 kind of mark. Yeah, and graded copies out there as well. The whole run's only 7 issues, and you want to look out for that final issue too, because those are always lower printed and people love collecting those. I mean, I do. I like paying attention to that stuff, but only 7 issues, so keep an eye out for the whole series. That's all we got comic-wise for the original Silverhawks run, so it's an easy run to complete. So get out there hunting and digging, and maybe you can find most of them, if not all of them, when you're out there digging. Now, this is not the only 80s toy line to be revamped, reintroduced into comics this week, because we also got Power Lords. Power Lords, early 80s. I vaguely remember these. I wasn't a big Power Lords collector, but I did have a few of the action figures. But part of the Nacelle verse, the biker mice from Mars and the and Sectars, their new connected universe is introducing Power Lords into it. So that's what came out this week. And I didn't mention the Silverhawks book, but the interiors on the Silverhawk book was kind of wonky. Actually, I like the interiors here on this book. It's got kind of anime, manga, Joe Mad, John Boy Myers, light kind of feel. I kind of liked it. So I like the interior art in this book for Power Lords. And again, I don't remember a lot about this squad. I remember this original toy. The guy was like backwards, like you turned him around and he went from his human form to his powered up blue form. And then you had like a He-Man dude that was half a tank. And there was a lot of weird action figures, a lot of bug characters and weird stuff. Again, early 80s. Early 80s. They kind of had a little bit of the G.I. Joe joints kind of thing going on. But interesting toy line nonetheless. There was a 3-issue miniseries comic that also accompanied those toys back in the day, and those actually came out of DC in December 1983. Here's the first issue of Power Lords. The saga begins, and yes, these are the guys inside. You can see there's our blue guy, just like the blue guy in the I forget his name. His name's Adam. I think it's the generic Adam. That's just like Adam and Eve kind of thing. But yeah, there he is inside the guts of this book too. So you can see the ties are in continuation that they're doing. This original run goes for very cheap. You can see here, one sold for 99 cents. The 3-issue mini sold for $15 recently. Copies listed $3, $4, as high as $11, but that's with free delivery. So that's basically the same as that 424 that's got $5.85 shipping. So it's a few bucks. Not an expensive book. But if you want to read the original run, you go out there and dig for them. It's only 3 issues. And it'll catch you up on the whole, synopsis of what this story and this toy line is all about. But otherwise, just read the new stuff and go into it fresh. Okay, moving on from there, I did grab a DC book, even though there was not a lot of DC to be had. It is the 5th week of the month. 5th week DC is generally just annuals, one-shots, and things like that. So we did get a bunch of one-shots, including this Superman Lex Luthor special. So Lex Luthor's back, folks. Memory returned. Not to spoil it, but that kind of is what happens in this issue. And throughout the issue, he's meeting all of his old friends and old characters before he basically comes back to the Lex we all know and love. But part of his crew and his little supporting cast of characters is we have his daughter here, Lena Luthor, too. The secondary Lena Luthor. She was introduced way back, and I think I've covered this book before. But it doesn't hurt just to throw it back out there again for those of you who may have missed the other show. But she was introduced as a baby, mind you, in November 1997 in Superman 131. This is electric blue Superman times. You remember when Superman was a big electric blue guy? That's the time frame when this book came out, and we were introduced to little Lena Luthor right here with Lex. Cool. Could not find any of these bad boys sold individually or even in a decent lot. So no sale prices to share, but copies listed $2.50, $5, $10, but with free shipping. It's a cheap book. Again, don't know if anything is going to come from the character, how much more or how often we're going to see her, but she is a supporting character for Lex. And as you can see, she's right there in the mix. So, hey, who knows? I doubt it's something we're going to see in the new movie right away. Who knows what happens down the line? James Gunn is a strange cat, and he does pick out strange characters and ties to things. So you never know. More likely, we'll probably see his bodyguard, assistant, sidekick, if you will, Mercy Graves, She basically had a strong play on the Superman animated series, but in the comics, she goes way, way back, actually into detective. But here, she's talking to Lex, our bearded Lex, about things before his memory is returned. Her look has changed over the years. Now she's got more of the dark hair with the glasses. She used to have, I think, brown hair at one time, and I think she was actually introduced with blonde hair. So with that, it was again back in Detective Comics during No Man's Land. Detective 735. She was basically Luther's bodyguard and running some errands for him. So here she is again with that lighter colored hair, kind of in a Don Johnson kind of vibe with her outfit, but kind of running her errands for her boss. Kind of vague and whatnot. Whatever. Unnamed. This is also her unnamed first appearance here in this detective book, but it is her. This book is also very, very cheap. Something you can find out there if you go digging. Look, copies have sold for $3. A lot of I don't know, 5 issues sold for under $10. So that's $2 a piece. Copies listed $1.75, 250, 250. It's very cheap. So once again, take a shot if you want to get that first Mercy Graves. With that, who else showed up in this Superman looks Lex Luthor special that we can talk about? But a team. It's kind of a flashback scene, but still kind of fun to see the callback to this weird squad of supervillains, if we want to call them that. But talking about the Maximums, yeah, characters like Soldier, Monster, I think Knight, and they got like one word names for all of them. And there's like half a dozen part of the crew. We didn't get to see all of them in that panel, but this whole crew goes way, way back to when Superman and Batman shared a title together back in 05. April of 05, issue 20 of that series. I mean, this series ran a while. I think it ran into the 70s, but if not more. But issue 20, the team, you got Loeb, McGinnis, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of weird stories during that time. But in this particular issue, we were introduced to the Maximums. So again, you could see, I think that one character's name was like Bug, and then the blue dude's Monster with no eyes, and you got Soldier. They're just kind of, I don't want to say generic bad guy team, but kind of generic bad guy team. I don't know. Point being, still kind of a fun little tie-in. And a book that's out there. You can find this thing. Look, $1.29. $1.25 for issues 14 through 20. So that's 6-7 issues for $1.25. 540 could also get you a handful of copies of this run. Because again, they printed a lot of these. So there are a lot of them out there, and a lot of Superman Batman books, this particular series, are out in those cheap boxes because they printed it pretty well. It was ordered pretty well, and a lot of people did enjoy it originally. So copies listed $2, $3, $5. Again, it's a cheap book. I'm not saying it should be any more expensive than that. I'm just saying it's a fun one for you to go and hunt if you want to go and find that first appearance of the Maximums team. Who knows when we'll see them again in actual comic book form? But yeah, we got them this week, so there is something. With that said, I also want to give you my code for BCW. You need your bags, your boards, your short boxes, your long boxes, top loaders, your boxes for your CGCs. Even if you need card pages for cards, anything you need to keep your collectibles and comic books safe, you're going to go to BCW. Might as well save some money. So use my code RENA10 and save 10% off your entire order. You help out the channel, you save yourself some money because nobody likes to spend money on storage items. It's not fun, but we got to do it. So you might as well save money while you do it, right? So use that code RENA10. You can even use the link that's down below too to get over there. With that said, I got one more thing for you to cover, and that is the rumor for this week. So the rumor going around the campfire this week is that we may have the villain for Black Panther 3. Could this be who Denzel is playing? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know for sure, but that's the rumor. We also don't know if we're going to get an aged up Toussaint, if we're going to get another variant for T'Challa, or what's going to happen. We don't know a lot. So again, rumor is all we've got. But currently, the rumor is that the villain of this piece could be this guy, Achibi. His name is a lot longer than that, but for my pronunciation, I just went with the short name. Basically, he was created back in the Christopher Priest run to kind of be like a Joker to Black Panther's Batman. So they were looking to do that. So he's kind of a witch doctor of sorts, makes a deal with Mephisto. I don't remember a lot of the details of all this, but it still has a lot of, connective tissue to things we can see in the MCU in the future, especially if we're talking Mephisto. We could talk about the Hood and what you're gonna get from Ironheart, which Ironheart, she does have ties to Black Panther, having been introduced in Black Panther 2. So there's a lot of things that could make sense here with this to be a good play as far as the villain. It could be. Could be. That said, he goes back, like I said, during that Christopher Priest run and Mark Teixeira, November 1998, issue 3 of that Black Panther run. So I know, I think it's the White Wolf was introduced in issue 4, so a lot of people go to that one, but issue before, so you can look for both. So the issue 3 here, right before the other one, is when we were introduced to this bad guy right here. So, just saying, not saying it's going to happen. It's only a rumor, but it's an interesting one. So if you can find the book for cheap, it doesn't hurt to scoop it up because copies have moved this week. But again, they're mostly still for very affordable prices. You can see here, $5 sales all over the place. Some lots of books selling for $10 for 3 issues or $20 for like 5 issues. So again, it's not an expensive book. Copies listed as cheap as $3.25 at auction right now. There's some buy it nows for $5-6. You can find it. So go and dig in those boxes. Maybe you'll find it there. And with all that, that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully you found this week's selections interesting. Some fun stuff for you to go out there and hunt. Things you can hopefully go out there and find. I love it when you guys do find stuff. So if you do, tag me on Instagram. If you find them, tell me what you found, what you got, even if it's not stuff that I told you about. If you've had some big scores in those dollar boxes or those cheap boxes, and you're like, hey, look, I found a New Mutants 98 for $1. I love seeing that kind of stuff. So tag me on Instagram or send me a message. And I just like talking comics. So with that all said, I know this is going to be airing tonight on Thursday, but also go check out Absolute Geek. I'm going to be over there talking wrestling. So if you're a wrestling fan, make sure you go over there and check us out. We're going to be giving our Royal Rumble predictions because the Rumble is this Saturday. I'm looking forward to that. Come back tomorrow for the Hot 10 at 9. It's always at 9 every week on the site, the article, as well as the video. And then right after the video, the boys with the qualified, I think they're talking magazines this week. A lot of other fun segments for you to check out there. Saturday night special, SNS Boys will be back this Saturday with a new live show. Star Wars on Sunday. And then come Monday, I'll start the week all over again with the Wednesday watch list and whatever other little videos I can squeeze out to keep things interesting. So hopefully you're on board for all the content we have here on the channel. Again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. It definitely helps when you guys comment. It also, it's a good thing to talk. It's a good thing to talk about comics. So with all that said, I'm done talking for now. So I'll see you all later with some more content. All right.